There are times in your marriage that maybe you find yourself just having the same fight over and over again. It looks a little bit different each time, but you don't know how to get out of that cycle. That's what we're going to talk about during this video. In fact, we actually got a prayer request from a woman named Carrie, and she said, "My husband has been getting angry and harsh towards me and the kids. I feel like he's not himself at moments, and I don't really know how to argue with him without him getting so angry." And she's stuck in this pattern of it happening over and over again. And I know that she's not the only one. We all find ourselves there. So what does it look like to break this cycle of fighting?
You know, there's a great scene in Wizard of Oz, so let's go old school for a second. Okay, remember when the whole gang, Dorothy and everybody, they're in front of the wizard, and he's got this big, loud, booming voice, fiery face, everybody's kind of trembling, and then the little Toto, the dog, runs over and grabs this curtain and kind of pulls it back to reveal some old, frail dude working the levers. And the guy's line was, "Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain." And what I've learned about anger is that anger is like the wizard, the loud, fiery voice that we tremble, but always there's something behind the curtain of anger. Anger is just a reaction. Anger is to distract people from really seeing what's truly going on. And that's why one of the best things that we ever did was to begin to learn what's really behind the curtain. What's really going on? Is anger, is that the real issue? It's not. There's always something that's triggering an anger kind of reaction. For some people, they get angry, we call them fighters. Some people flight, and they want to get away.
We're the opposite.
Yeah, I'm totally a fighter, I know that.
Yeah,
So you're a fighter.
Too.
Yeah.
Nice, well done.
I am too.
So I've heard you guys are both fighters, and maybe that's why your first few years of marriage were really rough for you guys.
Absolutely. And what we didn't know is that, we talked about our heart being closed in the last session, but what happens when our heart closes is buttons are being pushed. And we had no idea that we had buttons. But I walked my buttons, you walked your buttons right into our marriage. And that's what's underneath the anger. Our buttons are being pushed, our heart closes, and then we go into reaction mode. And reaction mode is either a flight or a fight modality. And so it really helps to understand this is what's going on. It changed everything for us, because then what we learned is that we get stuck in this crazy reactive cycle. My buttons get pushed, my heart closes, I go into reaction. All of that pushes his buttons. We're yet to meet a couple that doesn't do this. And it is, just like you said, Joy, that we get stuck in this, and we go round and round and round, over and over again.
This was super helpful. In the book, Fight Your Way to a Better Marriage, there's that whole list of all the buttons that push and then the explanations behind it, because for me it was eye-opening, because I didn't realize that certain buttons were getting pushed, thus making me feel a certain way. Yeah. And when that happened, well, then I get upset or I get angry, and I fire back to push another button on her, and then you're just running around like a dog chasing its own tail, just poking at each other, and then things get explosive.
Yeah, I didn't know this either, that when these buttons get pushed, really if you could take the back of this little easy button and notice, for me, I'm very much like you, that for me, the big button that I walked into our marriage was feeling like a failure. Oh, I want to feel successful as a husband, as a father, as an employee, whatever. In moments that she was frustrated with me or hurt, the moment that we'd get into a fight, it would simply push that button. I would hear her saying, she would say something like, "Hey, we need to, later on tonight, we need to talk about some things." And I would instantly hear that as, I am once again a big fat failure.
And the funny thing was when it was like, oh, about the kids.
Yeah.
We need to talk tonight about the kids. And he's already, he's down the road. His button's been pushed, he's gone and reacting. And I'd be like, what? We just need to talk about the kids. That's it.
I think it's really all about awareness. It's the fact to understand, okay, I do have buttons, but what is it? For me, uniquely. And so if you take that list that's in the book and just go through it and pinpoint, okay, here are the three biggies for me: failure, feeling controlled. I'm a middle child, so everything in life is unfair. And so that's another one for me. But if you can actually pinpoint it, some of the best discussions that we've ever had was just talking about, so tell me more about the failure. Tell me more about—
Where did that come from?
Yeah.
We all have stories, and we bring those stories with us. And it's so intimate to have a conversation about, what happened. What did you experience? But then, so it's key to become aware of the button, but then spend some time figuring out, what do I do when that button gets pushed? And is it a fight reaction or a flight reaction? And there's a list in the book as well that really you'll become clear of, this is what I do. And so sometimes it's going to be in reverse order. This is what I'm doing. Therefore, it's a key to know my heart's closed.
Yeah, you won't fight the same ever again once you start to name these things, because it's just become so obvious. Like, oh, we're in that cycle again.
Totally.
So it really will make a huge difference when you can put words to what's the button and what's my reaction.
And the good news is that you don't have to stay in this cycle. It's not a never-ending cycle that you cannot get out of. In the next video, we're going to dig a little bit deeper into what those lies written on your heart do and how you can actually find a way to work through those.